right, so 5.6 day 2, we will pick up with where we left off on, I want to say it is this example, okay? So, don't forget that some functions have both rational and irrational zeros, okay? So find them all using synthetic division. So, how many zeros are we supposed to find in this function? 4, okay? So at most we can find 4, but there could be 3 if one of them is a double. There could be 2 if it's, 2 imaginary type ones, etc. Okay? So we can find up to 4 different zeros. Okay? Refresh my memory from yesterday. What was our first step? We're looking at factors here of 42. So what are the factors of 42? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Next one. There's one before 21. 14 comes before 21. And 42. Okay? Factors of what then? 2. Plus and minus 1 and plus and minus 2, right? Okay? So my list, all the red numbers. Right? 1/2 is in there too. 1's already on there. 3/2 is in there. 3 is already on there. 7/2. 7, 21/2. Right? So I took my infinite amount of zeros and I narrowed it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Narrowed it down to 24. Right? Still a pretty big list to choose from. Okay? Alright? So to narrow it down, we can type it into the calculator. 2x to the 4th. Oops, I forgot the 2. 2x to the 4th plus 5x cubed minus 18x squared minus 19x plus 42. Okay? Now, the question came up yesterday, what if we don't have a graphing calculator? Then you just got to try your synthetic division until you find one. Okay? And so you get a little bit hard, it's a little more work, but it's not very difficult work. Okay? So, looks like here we should try -2. Yes? All right, let's try -2 on our function. So if I'm going with -2, then my 2, 5, -18, -19, +42. All right. 2, negative 4, 1, negative 2, negative 20, positive 40, positive 21, negative 42, 0. Yeah? So f of x now, so that means that negative 2 is a 0, which means that x plus 2 is the factor. So f of x now is x plus 2 times what? 2x cubed plus x squared minus 20x plus 21. Okay? Let's look back at the graph here. Let's maybe try... Yeah, that doesn't look very pretty at all, does it? So let's try maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe negative 4. But I know negative 4 is not going to work. Why? But even more so, why do I know, going back to here, why do I know that negative 4 is not going to work? It's not in my blue list. Okay, what? Well, is there anything close to negative 4, like on our list? Well, let's look. So this would be negative, so 7 halves here. That one would be negative 3.5, right? That'd be close, but looking at the graph, wouldn't negative 3.5 be like right in here more? Okay. What about this? I like this one. Well, this one right here. What's that one? 1.5, right? 1.5 is 3 halves, right? Let's try it. Not going to hurt us. Okay. So let's go off of this one though, so that we keep getting our factors. So we're going to try 3 halves here, and I'm going to use 2, 1, negative 20, and 21. I know some people don't like the fractions, but sometimes you just got to do them. Okay? So I drop the 2. 2 times 3 halves is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 times 3 halves is what? 6. Negative 14. Negative 14 times 3 halves. Negative 21. Oh, Nelly, look what we just found. So 3 halves is a 0. Which means what? X minus 3 halves is a factor. So now f of x can be written as x plus 2 times what? Times x minus 3 halves times what? 2x squared plus 4x minus 14. Right? So far, we've found 2 zeros. And now we've got it down to a quadratic. So what can we do with that quadratic now? We could look at that, right? And set that equal to 0. Oops, I'll put these in a different color. We'll put those back into the green. X minus 3 halves equals 0. So x equals 3 halves. And we can do x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals negative 2. Okay? So what are you going to do with 2x squared? What's in red there? 2x squared plus 4x minus 14. What are you going to factor?
Oh, you mean like how many factor?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a compound.
I would factor out a 2, right?
Yeah.
Now what? Are there two numbers that when I multiply them together, I get negative 7, and when I add them together, I get positive 2? So now what? I can't use the square root method because I got a linear term. There's a linear term right here. So I can't put everything on, separate the sides and then take the square root.
You can't do the A, B, C.
What's the ABC thing? X equals what? Opposite of B plus or minus
The square root.
square root of
B squared.
B squared
Minus 4AC.
minus 4AC
All over 2A.
all over 2A. What do we call that?
The quadratic formula.
We call that liquid gold. Yeah, the quadratic formula. Okay? All right? So, what's my A, what's my B, and what's my C? A is 1. What's B? 2. What's C? Negative 7. So x here is going to equal negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7 all over 2 times 1. So that is negative 2 plus minus the square root of 4 plus 28 all over 2, right? 4 plus 28, 32. Can I simplify the square root of 32? Or is there a perfect square factor of 32? Give me one. There's two of them actually.
8 and 4.
8 and 4. Okay, so I could go the square root of 4 times the square root of 8. Is there any in 8 then?
Yeah, 4.
4 and 2, right?
Yeah.
So this one becomes 2, this one becomes 2, and so then I get 4 times the square root of 2, right? Or I could have said this was 16 and 2 and gotten 4 times the square root of 2 there. Okay? So this becomes negative 2 plus or minus 4 square roots of 2 all over 2. Can that fraction be simplified?
Yeah.
Yes, because of the bunny ears, right? Okay? There and there. Your bunny has 2 ears, not 3. So I don't go into the radical. Okay? So -2 divided by 2 is -1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I get that as my 4 zeros. So the zeros of this problem are, way back from up top, -2, 3/2, and -1 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2. Go back and check the original problem all the way back up. Find them all, it said. So we're ending at bus stop number 3 with the zeros. Hopefully I can get them all on one page. Okay? Questions? Fantastic. Couple of steps that you need to remember for when finding rational zeros. Okay? Remember, P here is the last number, and Q here is the first number. You can narrow down the possibilities by graphing. We can use synthetic division to divide out the integers, okay, or to find the zeros once you know a zero. I'm going to change that to 0. Factor, factor, factor until you can't factor anymore, or use the quadratic formula to find those. Okay? Now, as of right now, as we stand, as we sit, as we do whatever it is we're doing right now, if you're watching this on the screencast, we are not finding imaginary zeros. Okay? So for instance, if on this last problem, and I'll come back to that slide here in a minute, if we got all the way down to here, and we said that, and that one ended up being the square root of -32, I would just be done, because then that becomes an imaginary solution. I'm only finding real, rational solutions right now. Okay? Later on this week, okay, Thursday, we will find imaginary ones then too. Okay? Don't forget that that reminds me about Wednesday. Don't forget that tomorrow there's a formative. Okay? All right, so today then, so this was yesterday's homework. Today, oops, I'll put it in a different color. I'm adding more, man.
There's a worksheet.
Both of them are due Thursday, which is what? Today is 1, so that would be 11/3. Okay? Handle? Yeah, buddy.